we offload more decision making into the multi-agent workflows, for example, in like 3 or 4 years hence. How do we guard against unintended or unexpected outcomes that may be something that is non-desirable for an executive at a grocery store?
It's about automating the stuff that is commoditized and more of an efficiency thing, and highlighting for humans both the things that are really valuable as well as maybe some of the biggest decisions that you'd be really worried to totally give the keys away to agents on. And I think that grocery domain expertise in the technology builders and the grocers themselves that will be building a lot of technology is critical to know and make that distinction real.
Hey guys, this is Mike. Welcome to the podcast. Today's guest is Matthew Schwarz, the CEO of Afresh. Matt's one of the smartest guys I know in the world of grocery tech. One of the things I've been working on, in addition to creating podcasts, is working on research in partnership with Refed on how AI reduces food waste. And so I wanted to catch up with Matt because I really wanted to hear what's going on, what's the latest around food waste and AI in the grocery side. And so we catch up with that. It's a really good conversation, and I think you will enjoy it. As always, if you want to find more podcasts, just head over to The Spoon, check them out. We have a lot of great podcasts from a lot of great hosts. I will be back early next week with another podcast, so stay tuned for that. But let's get to my conversation with Matthew Schwarz. So I have with me Matt Schwarz, the CEO of Afresh. And Matt, you have some news you guys are announcing. You guys have focused from the beginning on fresh because it is different within grocery stores. But I think you guys are expanding to the entire grocery store with your AI. Can you talk about that?
Yes. Today, we're super thrilled to announce our expansion to the full store. We started in the most complex parts of the store, bulk fresh categories, loose produce that doesn't have a barcode, things that could be sold by weight, items that are transformed and produced in store. Some of the hardest challenges that were the least served by technology, but what people want to eat the most. And that was an amazing starting point for us as a company because that's what the industry needed the most. But grocers really want to have as simple set of systems as they could possibly have. And we heard over time, year after year, they wanted us to cover the whole store. So today we're announcing that we're doing that. We've brought our system across to center store, non-perishables, to dairy, to general merchandise that's not even food, so that a grocer can have an all-in-one end-to-end solution for all of their complex fresh items, as well as everything else they sell.
What does that mean in terms of where you guys sit within the stack of software for a grocer? I mean, I kind of always saw you guys as handling fresh food and making sure that food stays fresh, it gets to the right place at the right time and is sold. But I would imagine that for a grocer to simplify their food management stack, they would less software would probably better. Are you guys going to try to aim to become like the inventory management software of record? Do you guys have bigger goals now that you can do the whole store?
The fun thing for us is that we increasingly can meet grocers where they're at. So our original modality of working with grocers was to do an end-to-end application, be a workflow that we built that's tailor-made for the specific department and user, the AI algorithms that optimize decisions around inventory, forecasting, and ordering, and the data models under the hood. We have now offered grocers the option to pick and choose parts of that so they can use their existing workflow and port in our algorithms to augment their intelligence and enable them to get the best out of what they already have invested in. And so in some cases, a grocer might say, Afresh has a increasingly robust platform. We have store ordering. We have period-ending inventory to help with cycle counts. We have production planning, which optimizes in-store production quantities. We have distribution center level buying. We have recipe management. We have an ever-growing and fast-growing platform, inclusive now of Center Store that we're announcing today. And so a grocer might say, I really want Afresh to do all of these apps and power our business. But if they have an existing strategy of having built some stuff, or having other third-party vendors they like, they can fit us really nicely into their ecosystem in ways that makes it seamless. And for CIOs, makes it feel like they've got system simplicity instead of system complexity.
I think when we caught up last year, I think we were just trying to get a sense of what you're seeing happening with regards to AI impacting food waste. You guys have been there pretty early days because, you're focused on the fresh part and using computer vision, et cetera. But I'd love to hear what you've seen change over the past, I think, 8 to 9 months since we chatted. And what are kind of the big things you're seeing happening right now with regards to AI impacting food waste, particularly in the grocery store side?
Yeah, we're seeing a massive increase in the desire to use AI by grocery executives and their boards. And they want to use it in the form of third-party applications by companies like us to reduce food waste. But they also want to enable their internal organizations to employ AI.
Okay.
Just as you or I might use Claude to run things in our lives, they want to use that or something equivalent to better run their business. And I'm seeing massive momentum and investment to make that happen.
And that's across just internal operations, like just at the general business level. I imagine any kind of specific other kind of things you're seeing, like with regards to that specific to grocery store operations or the business of grocery stores?
I think that it's across the entire business.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of grocers are if you look at Albertsons as an example, they've divided their initiatives across supply chain, merchandising, digital, which is like their e-commerce business, and it's their teams, store teams and corporate teams. And so there are these ways to think about AI as how do they improve the execution of the grocery business across all of those core functions. There's a separate thing, though, or an underpinning thing that cuts across all of that, which is I think that the IT organizations are moving increasingly to be the star players, or like there's a cliche in the industry. It's an unfortunate truth that like you have the core business, which is like the chief merchants, the COOs, the supply chain folks, the marketers, and then you've got the back room. You got IT. I think IT, this drive to adopt AI is shining a spotlight on the IT organizations, because to get AI to turn on, you critically need your architecture and your data set up to enable that. And so I think that's a big increasing emphasis.
We hear the cliche of it's all about the data with AI all the time. What does that mean from a grocery store operational perspective for like a company like the size of a Kroger, maybe even a small regional? Is there lots of work to do to condition the data to work with AI? Obviously, a lot of data systems are siloed even within one company.
Yes, there is a lot of work to do to centralize, harmonize, clean, and get systems AI ready, inclusive of building things called like knowledge graphs. There are certain efforts that grocers were going on to do this already in a pre-AI age. So like you've all heard the term digital transformation. But like, and what that can mean a lot of different things, but in practice, they're moving their data into the cloud, like Google GCP, or then structuring it in data warehouses with companies like Databricks. And those are good steps, but those are only the initial foray to get enabled in this world. There's still, within moving all your data to the cloud, lots of work to do to get it cleaned and AI enabled after that, because grocery data and especially fresh data is notoriously the Wild West.
So in-house custom-built software, I think, is pretty typical for big corporations. Is that oftentimes what you're finding yourself displace as they look to upgrade and maybe moving to a more modern stack? What are you finding within the larger players?
We're really seeing a mix. So we're seeing some want to replace. There are some areas, I think production planning in particular, that they don't really want to build stuff in-house. It's like a really complicated space, and the players that existed in that area historically were pretty sleepy, and there wasn't a lot of innovation. And so in that world, there's a lot of movement towards just buying a full solution. And then there are other areas in the supply chain that feel more core, where they may have already invested a lot in building or in getting their systems working around a certain provider or ecosystem of providers that they're looking to not disrupt. And in those cases, it's more about augmentation. So the candid answer is really that there's not one consistent thing we're seeing across the industry. People are in a lot of different states of their architecture and technology journeys, and they're generally looking to do better. But that looks different for every grocer we see.
I think when we chatted last year, we talked about the arrival of agentic AI and how that you felt AI agents might automate a lot of the workflows. Can you talk about 6 months, 9 months later versus where we talked in 2025, how that looks? Or are we seeing that deployed, or are we still early stages on agentic AI within grocery store workflows?
I think paradoxically, we've seen a lot, but we're also still in the early stages. I think that they're going back to some of what we were talking about in the digital transformation and the AI enablement of grocers. I think that there's a lot of agentic workflows happening within third-party applications like ours that are legitimately driving significant automation in the industry in specific applications or areas of the business. But I think to get to a truly agentic future for these grocery companies, they still need to enable their entire enterprise. They are not yet in a place where they can ask Claude or OpenAI to build a workflow that's going to connect across all their systems and automate those things with homegrown builds. I think that is coming, but we're not there yet. So we're seeing the advent of more agentic deployments, but we still have some ways to go for it to get across the entire business.
For those who are non-AI experts in the audience, could you explain to someone who doesn't live and read this every day what an AI agent might be doing today in terms of being installed on a workflow and what it's managing, and then what that may be doing in 3 or 4 years from now, how that may differ?
Yeah. So an AI agent is effectively doing the work that a person could be doing otherwise. So I might ask an AI agent to, review all of the inbound vendor price quotes that I'm getting for cantaloupes, and summarize and synthesize and highlight which vendor it thinks we should go with to buy from. That's a use case that is fully enabled today by things like our technology, and enables automation of tasks that previously were very manual. Because if you think about the work that would be required to do that, you would have to, as a human, look at your price quotes wherever you're receiving them in email or Excel. You'd have to ideally look at your historical performance with those vendors and items. You'd have to do a whole number of different things to arrive at a recommendation like that. And something like that is totally possible today. I think that over, the course of the next several years, you'll see more and more agents working together to make decisions. So as opposed to just doing that on the buyer side of things, you might also have an agent that's in parallel thinking about assortment or thinking about negotiation in the RFP process for longer term contracts. And these things will work in cohorts to drive more decisions and then increasingly automate bigger and bigger chunks of the business. I think, you're getting a little bit further out when you start talking about like multi-agent coordination on that sort of scale across functions. But I think that's where we're headed.
Are there concerns that grocers might come at you with? Maybe it's executives, people not in the IT side, who are saying, hey, this, the grocery business was built around human-based decision-making, and this is accelerating pretty quickly in terms of what AI can do. And as we offload more decision-making into the multi-agent workflows, for example, in like 3 or 4 years hence, how do we kind of guard against like maybe unintended or unexpected outcomes that may be something that is non-desirable for an executive at a grocery store? You know what I mean? Like, what are the guardrails you're putting in? I mean, I would imagine you're having some of these questions and people asking about that.
Absolutely. And I think this is where having really domain specific expertise in their technology is critical. Grocers have always leaned into technology that drives efficiency and automation. It's an incredibly low margin business. And so wherever they can, they're trying to be efficient. But it's also a business that has a lot of art, almost as much art as there is science. And they lean into their people to help and drive those differentiating factors. So to make a concrete example, for distribution center level buyers or category managers, sometimes that's the same role in the fresh departments. A grocer will absolutely want to automate the decision of how many potatoes to order and when, and with which vendor to buy it from, because that's a efficiency play. They're not trying to spend a lot of time cutting a PO for russet potatoes, with as much love as I have for the potato industry. What they really want to do, a fun example we heard from one of our customers, is identify a local blueberry grower that has a new varietal of blueberries and lock down an exclusive contract on those blueberries and then merchandise and market that varietal in their stores. This is a true example. They found through their networks this new varietal blueberry, locked down an exclusive contract, sold it, and it sold like gangbusters and really delighted their customers. And that's a really human thing to do. So if you could free up the buyer from executing the PO on the potatoes and focus on the hot ad or the promotional item or something that's going to really delight the customer, they'd like to invest in that. So it's about automating the stuff that is commoditized and more of an efficiency thing, and highlighting for humans both the things that are really valuable as well as maybe some of the biggest decisions that you'd be really worried to totally give the keys away to agents on. And I think that grocery domain expertise in the technology builders and the grocers themselves that will be building a lot of technology is critical to know and make that distinction real.
Got it. I think we chatted in our previous chat about obviously a lot of the buzz in broader society is around large language models and generative AI. Where are you today in terms of your technology stack integrating with some of these other AI models to enable additional functionality or maybe like an interaction layer for managers? Are you doing any of that right now? Has that changed at all?
Absolutely. We employ them in many different ways. We obviously employ them in the development of our software. So as well as the execution of our entire business. We are increasingly leveraging LLMs and AI to make Afresh as effective and productive as possible. We use them as features in our products. So there are features that ingest unstructured data, write emails, or create unstructured outputs, or things like you described around conversing with an AI or having more open-ended conversation to figure something out. And then we also employ it to drive the underpinning capabilities of our system. So an example of this would be leveraging LLMs to automate the process of data cleanup, which is something that enables our integrations to go faster and our overall performance to be higher.
How deployed are we in terms of AI in things like grocery, maybe other spaces in the food system at big operators like, big grocery store operators? Is it widely deployed? Are these still largely trials? Are these making a big difference today across big chains, across operations?
It's a very broad question. And
it is. Yeah.
The world is you learn when you build a company that the world's a very complex place. Grocers, if I take something like store ordering as an example, grocers across the US and globally are genuinely deploying AI in store ordering. And that gets into a little bit of the definition of, is this linear regret? Are they calling AI linear regressions? Is it genuine deep learning? But that also is now distinct from LLMs and generative AI and agentic styles of that. Store ordering is a really good fit for the deep learning style of AI. And I would say that for non-perishable foods, there's a good amount of AI being used legitimately to do ordering there. In fresh food, we've found that those systems, especially in bulk produce, meat that's cut in store, ingredient items, bakery items, some of the most complex categories, a grocer will have an AI-powered system working in their consumer packaged goods, but that other fresh stuff will have no AI penetration. So it's a textured answer I'm giving you.
Yeah.
I'd say that there are where there are places to put in deep learning and some of the more narrow AI use cases. There are real deployments, albeit mostly on the non-perishable side of the store. And increasingly with us and Afresh, we take pride in, we're live in over 12,000 store departments with our AI technology doing store ordering and increasingly more coverage of chains at the distribution center level. So that is real AI deployment that I can quantify because I know it. As far as the generative AI use cases and LLMs, I think that we're seeing a lot of that. Like some of our customers are launching Ask AI or some of these things in their digital e-commerce businesses for agentic shopping. Some of that is real. But we are very much, I'd say, in the early innings of that type of technology working its way throughout the entire business.
So it sounds like the deeper penetration is with previous generation machine learning, deep learning type of AI versus the agentic and large language model AI.
Correct. Albeit like with a ton of momentum and a ton of desire and no doubt a lot of like very real use cases at especially the largest national scale grocers and retailers.
Are we seeing a big impact already on food waste reduction? Where I met you first, Matt, I think at Refed in 2023 or 2022. I'm losing track at this point. It was Minneapolis. But I think it's the first time we really chatted. And I think you were at Refed because, Afresh is very focused on fresh food. And that's where you can really have an impact on food waste in particular is on the fresh side. So are you guys having an impact today? Are you seeing a big impact on food waste reduction?
Yes. I'm proud to share that at last measure, we're on a run rate basis of preventing over 200 million pounds of food waste per year.
That's impressive.
We're thrilled about it. And we test it in a very rigorous way where in the deployments of our software, we look at performance for a cohort group of Afresh stores versus a control group of stores that are not on our system. And that will run for a period of some months. And then we look at the difference year over year in those cohorts and look at the statistical significance of that difference on key metrics, one of which is waste. And we observe that outcome in that context.
And I know I could just simply say, okay, you're making operations more efficient and maybe their fresh food is moved at a better time because it's been optimized. But can you get a little more specific on what you're optimizing to reduce the waste?
If you want to visualize it, the way to see it, and we see this in the first week when we turn stores on, is before Afresh, you see a very full back room. So the produce cooler or the meat cooler will have a lot of product in it. And afterwards, when we deploy the system, the floor will be full, but we'll see much leaner back rooms. So what that means in practice is that product is spending less time sitting in the back room and also on the distribution center shelf and more time on the consumer shelf and people's fridges.
Yeah.
So this has to do with the velocity of inventory turnover and keeping a full shelf with a very lean back room and doing that with the precision that AI enables.
I mean, having gone to business school, I think you did too. The idea of just-in-time inventory we've been studying since like the 80s.
Yep.
But it sounds like AI is really, really, truly enabling just-in-time at a greater level and maybe impacting upstream in terms of who your delivery partners are to a certain degree.
That's exactly it. And again, it's not a novel concept. People have been employing store-level technologies for ordering since the 80s.
Yeah.
The problem has been that if you look at the just-in-time or supply chain technology literature, there's a lot of books on how to do it for non-perishable products. When we started the company, we looked for any operations research or supply chain technology software for Fresh, and there was one 50-page thesis we found. I think the guy's name was like Namias, a PhD. But that was all the research that had ever been done on fresh food and supply chain. And there's obviously been much more since then. A lot of that has been catalyzed by us. But the advent of AI has enabled us to get more precise. And also, it's more than just a demand forecast or an order. It's about understanding inventory. It's about estimating the perishability of the product. It's about doing things in a probabilistic fashion to account for the uncertainty that's involved in fresh food. It's about having workflows that are tailor-made for fresh. And so we're taking a long-standing science that's been very rigorously thought through and really applying it to fresh food.
I know we're running out of time. You're heading to the airport, but for those who are in the grocery business, trying to anticipate what their AI strategy should be, what would you say you're excited about? What advice would you give them?
I would say on the whole, we're busier than we've ever been before. And I think that is emblematic of more excitement and investment in AI and technology in the industry than there ever has been before. And I think that if I'm a grocer right now, I'm getting aggressive about the applications and all the different use cases through which I can deploy this software from a business strategy perspective. I think they also need to be thinking about their IT strategy and architecture strategy that underpins that to enable the business outcomes they want. I don't think they should be kind of working in a mode of picking one application here, one use case there. They should take a step back and think holistically about how they want their business to operate differently in the future and ask the hard questions about whether or not they're set up to make that happen in practice.
Matt, thanks a lot. I appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate it too. It's always fun to chat with you, Michael. And it's an exciting time right now.
Well, that was it. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Matt Schwarz from Afresh, a company building AI for grocery stores, for the fresh department, and now the entire grocery store. We will have another podcast in just a few days, so stay tuned for that. But for now, go to The Spoon and check out other podcasts. We'll talk to you all soon.
If you enjoyed this episode, why not share it with a friend? And don't forget to give us a 5-star review. You'll find more content like this on thespoon.tech/podcasts.